All right, got some shocking information here. Holy moly, this is unbelievable. I mean, it makes perfect sense, of course, right? We know this stuff is going on, but it is so crucial for everyone to realize that this is going on. This is, as you know, this is just so important for people to understand what is happening. This orchestrated chaos coming from the New World Order. And we have documents here that show the whole playbook of what they're doing. And it is, we see it, right? You see it on your videos, you see it on your streets, you're seeing it all over the social media. You see this in action, but now you're going to see the documents that give the instructions for the people that are part of these organizations. And we're going to show you who these organizations are and what exactly these documents are saying. So you see here, who is helping bail out the Antifa and commies and roaches who are destroying America as we type. This was 1 second ago from Minneapolis via Unicorn Riot Live. Who is paying for this? Bay, Soros, George Floyd. So what's going on? Here's people writing phone numbers on their arms. Why are they using Sharpies to write numbers on their arms? Well, this document here explains it. Okay? And what this document here is from Friends of Democracy. So Friends of Democracy, if you don't know, Jonathan Soros is the son of Emperor Palpatine, aka George Soros, and he funded and is behind this. He started the Friends of Democracy, American non-profit. I always warn people about those labels, non-profit, like philanthropy, organized progressive liberal political advocacy organization. The organization was formed in 2014 upon the merger of Public Campaign Action Fund Group and the Friends of Democracy, Every Voice. So all these groups, and we talk about Human Rights Watch and so many others that are all behind what's happening. So now that you know who's behind this, let's take a look at this document. Now, I can't 100% confirm this, but this is apparently what people are finding. There's other documents too that we're going to look at. This is apparently what they're finding among some of the protesters. Okay? So you see Final Operation Order Summary. Action BW 104-18-15 here. Please read the full document. All right. Final Operation Order Summary. The Action Oversight Committee, the AOC, has determined that Saturday, April the 18th, 2015, is when operators will implement action, what that number was before, the swift transition from the AOEC planning implementation by friendly operators in BWI is part to seize much momentum as possible from the current civil unrest. So this was back when Ferguson and Baltimore and all that was happening. Friendly officials in various administrative organizations for BWI have told us to expect large law enforcement response to our operations. Please refer to the action of this document on recommended practices in countering LE and hostile forces. So they have a playbook here, and then they're showing here the action map. So this is the type of coordination that they're doing, right? Telling people where to go. And they say the anti-orgs at each act point have specific departure times and must travel to designated routes. The routes have been guaranteed by friendly BWI officials and LE as safe for ops and AUX ops. So look at what they say here. We are expecting possible injuries and stuff, right? Any legal concerns must be reported immediately to the closest PIC. Anti-orgs will coordinate. The AOEC will turn to collaborate with friendly BWI officials. We are expecting possible injuries and all this. Don't worry about violent action. We have secured limited protections from friendly BWI officials and the LE to permit some aggressive activity. So look at the things that they say. Post-action objectives. Agitation of local civilian population. Escalation of civil unrest in BWI areas. Provocation and hostile LE and BWI officials. escalation of LE deployment in BWI area, galvanization of friendly and user-allied organizations, creation of environment where organic conflict can grow. And tertiary here, recruitment up to the discretion of the AGIT orgs, seeding of other organic actions in locations in the U.S. Of course, none of it's organic. Civil unrest leads to the deployment of martial law-like policies for BWA, creating a feedback loop, additional action opportunities. And then they have here, this is the real kicker down here. So they're saying approved practices. Here, I'll make this a little bit bigger. Hand-to-hand. Closed fists may be used only below the neck and above the belt. Open hands may be used wherever. Kicking is not permitted unless provoked with other recourse. Do not reach for LE weapons or make moves that could be misconstrued for reaching for a weapon. General behavior. Do not congregate with other ops or AUX ops in auxiliary ops, I'll say, in groups of more than 2. Do not make prolonged eye contact or speak with more than 2 other ops or auxiliary ops. If you must speak with other ops and auxiliary ops directly, please do so via a 328BG comms. When in crowds, keep hands visible, out of pockets, and keep them visible. Avoid being caught in open spaces. Stick to other locals participating in demonstration. Do not spend too much time on your 328BG. Use it sparingly. We're trusting you to act independently as much as possible. Navigate only approved protection corridors. Props. Do not bring anything to the demonstration. You may only engage in the use of props if other local demonstrators have already done so. Bottles, rocks, sticks, and other small blunt objects are permissible. Let me repeat this. Bottles, rocks, sticks, and other small blunt objects are permissible as long as the use of props has already occurred among other demonstrators. Aggressiveness. Anti-orgs will update you before mobilization on signs and codes used to identify friendly LEs and BWI officials. Do not engage with them on any level that may be perceived as friendly. Allied LEs have been instructed merely to not engage. They have not been told to assist. Anti-orgs will relay orders from nearby AOEC representatives when it is best appropriate to escalate. Remember, timing and assignment of escalations is determined by conditions on the ground and intelligence from LE channels through the AOEC. If determination has been made to escalate, specific instructions will be relayed via the 328BG. Only escalate per those instructions if they come. And then they have here, this does not leave the document. The disbursement of funds will occur in 3 stages. Initial disbursement of funds prior to action. If you have not already received disbursement, please reach out to the designated point contact. This will constitute typically of 5 to 10% of negotiated amount. And, right, so these are just more of their instructions here. And do not report this as income to anybody. We have coordinated with relative tax authorities and accounting firms to ensure that funding is distributed through appropriate channels to preserve OPSEC. So their funding is all clandestine. Failure to properly abide by the terms of funding will result in your expulsion from future actions. Incentives are offered during demonstrations. Displays of leadership or bravery can earn you bonuses based on your merit. As with previous FOD actions, incentives are limitless. We encourage that. So, pretty interesting. Friends of Democracy here. Funded by George Soros himself. And there are more documents here. There's the ANTIFA manual. Apparently, again, allegedly, these things have been found in these demonstrations. So we're going to take a look at the Antifa manual here. Do not distribute to any cis white males non-POC, non-LGBTQSWXYZ peoples, aka fascists. Do not. So we're all fascists, right? Everybody that's not colored. Well, I mean, even if you're colored, I imagine you could be a fascist too, because you're not buying into the Antifa manual or playbook. But everybody that's not them is a fascist. That's their motto, right? So check this out. Again, I can't 100% confirm this, but just be prepared. When you see this, you want to see evil, you're going to see incredible evil. And again, who is responsible for these organizations? Well, we know, right? The NWO itself. So check this out. I can't really make this bigger, but if you're reading this, it is because someone close to our movement has trusted it with you. Please do not distribute to anyone who may attempt to harm or denigrate what we're doing. This is anti-fascist or Antifa manual. If you're reading this already, you already know that we are a social justice movement against hatred, intolerance, and bigotry. The manual outlines that where we've been, where we're at, and where we are headed within the next 100 years. But first, to understand how we got here, you have to understand, number one, white privilege. For hundreds of thousands of years, cis white male, hundreds of thousands of years, right? Or for hundreds, if not thousands of years, I got that right. The cis white male power structure controlled the media and disbursement of information. First came the printing press, controlled by white males. Then came the mass media, such as newspapers and television, controlled by white males. But next, the evolution of media was born at a time when cis white male power structure began to lose its firm grip on the dissemination of ideas. Some of our kind have begun to infiltrate high-level positions of power in major media organizations. And of course, the new king of idea of dissemination is social media. This is the new battleground of our war against fascism. Whites, especially cis white males. So if you don't know, cis is heterosexual, right? I mean, we're like, I'm a cis white male, I guess. I wouldn't call myself a cis or whatever, right? But that's what they would label me. So cis white males have proven to be the greatest evil mankind has ever known. Let me read this again. Whites, especially cis white males, have proven to be the greatest evil mankind has ever known. From Hitler to our very own Harry S. Truman, who dropped the atom bomb on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, to slave traders of old, no one has proven to do more harm than white men. From their murderous plundering of an example given, of course, the native Indians and African slaves, white males have achieved status and power in the United States and Western Europe. Never indulge any fantasy by these fascists that white men have also cured disease, lifted people out of poverty through Western capitalism, democracy, or any other facetious claim they may make about such men. Their gains were only achieved through rape and plunder. Hence, cis white males' inherent privilege in our society. This is the basis for which people of color, LGBTQ, NSW, XYZ, the disabled, and other groups that need protection will level the playing field and form a new world order, aka one world government. A government by protected classes of people, for protected classes of people, for protection and betterment of all humanity. So just basically Antifa coming forth and saying they're all about the New World Order. Creating a culture of tolerance. Isn't it ironic? Tolerance. To create a culture of tolerance, we first must eliminate all forms of hate speech, elimination of freedom of speech. Every idea is critical to our movement, and our way of thinking must be condemned as, or our way of thinking must be condemned as racist, homophobic, misogynist. Let me just read this again. It's very small, but every idea critical of our movement or our way of thinking must be condemned as racist, homophobic, and misogynist. So just complete logical fallacy, right? a complete straw man. Like, anything you say against us, you're a homophobe. Anything you say against us, you're Hitler. If you say anything against what we're trying to accomplish, you're you're evil, right? Basically, period. We have the facts and history on our side. When all else fails, compare someone to Hitler. Every once in a while, one of our minority groups group friends will become disillusioned and speak out as a conservative, aka fascist. So conservative means you're fascist. Belittle them as delusional. They speak against their own rational self-interest. Our color, my blackness, for example, comes first. It defines who I am: black first, American second, gay lesbian first, little person, dwarf second, American third, and so on. Crashing the borders. Most liberals are not Antifa yet, but soon they will be. It's like communists. I mean, this could be Khmer Rouge it's just right out the same playbook. Refugee crises such as those created by situation in Syria are the ideal way to get people of color into America. They need our help. So they want more of these colored people to dilute the white majority sort of thing. There are pictures of dead babies who have been washed ashore on beaches. Use imagery such as this to get support from expanding the POC minority population in the United States. Never call any immigrant illegal, obviously. They are undocumented. It doesn't matter whether they came over here to smuggle drugs. It doesn't matter whether they came over here to smuggle drugs or they were brought here by their parents at a young age. Migrants from Mexico to South America will play a crucial role in Antifa activities for the next 100 years. By 2117, 100 years from now, our goal is to have 70% of the U.S. population be non-white. By then, we will hopefully have subverted the power structure enough to eventuate our ends. Control the media. It's important to gain control of the media through any means necessary. In these early stages of this movement, it's important not to alienate any cis white males who are on our side. Use white shame and white guilt to kowtow men in positions of power into following our ideals. Some major media conglomerates are swinging to our side, but they have not gone far enough. Social media is new battlefront, of ideals. We've seen what kind of power these outlets yield by kicking major fascists off their platforms. This will and must continue. If you are seeking positions of power in the media, be sure to obfuscate and hide your true identity or true intentions on various social media platforms. Better to remain a mystery and wield massive power than blatantly shouting your viewpoints from the hilltops. We have the objective truth on our side. Always project it. Use social media and a baton to slap down anyone who holds fascist viewpoints. Call them racist, homophobic, misogynist. Create an echo chamber around you. I mean, it's insanity. This is just pure evil. Many of us learned about Antifa and gained our views on college campuses and universities in our culture and our country, of course, because, that's where they come, the cultural Marxists and all that. This needs to start earlier. Take up teaching as a profession. Take up teaching as a profession. Educate the youth about the dangers of fascism. Befriend those vulnerable students to whom you suspect of having fascist-leaning parents. Teach little Timmy not just how to read good, but also how to think and act good. You have to teach people how to think and act. Once we firmly control social media and most major media platforms, it's time to start Operation Truth. This way, the way many social media platforms currently work is that people are primarily exposed to viewpoints they primarily already agree with. This creates a kind of echo chamber for that individual. However, once we control the flow of information, we can slowly start spreading the truth to all fascists who reject our ideology. This must be done very carefully, slowly at first. Begin suggesting a piece of news, video, tweet, post that the opposition could conceivably believe in. Create news outlets of media that do not come with baggage of known bias. Convert. Is this the end here? They don't have another one. That's all I've got with there, unless this is it here. Major new media stars into witting or unwittingly pawns for our cause. Believe the way we do or you will be fired. The next crucial step is to threaten the livelihoods of anyone who dares speak out against our agenda. They are, after all, fascists who are clearly racist, homophobic, and misogynist. You can't run a company with somebody like that in your midst. Once we achieve this, we'll almost be able to taste our victory, yet we have so much further to go to achieve our ends. Fearing for one's livelihood is clearly a big motivator. Cis white male fascists will begin to hide in the shadows. They may lurk online, on message boards and underground media, but will be afraid to speak up using their own voice and name for fear of being labeled a bigot. Many fascist corporate overlords still exist and will offer some of these fear hate mongers a place to work. But it's only a matter of time before our ranks infiltrate even the most evil of corporations who tolerate such hate speech from their employees. And then phase 2, the socialization of capital. Never reveal our end game, but obvious next step will be to control the media is the socialization of our capital. This will obviously require major political power. With hopefully 70% of people of color in this nation, we may begin to have a chance in these ends. How obviously we start with healthcare. It's after all a basic human right. Everyone knows someone who died of cancer, but who got sick somehow. Obamacare was better than what we had before, but it was built with the healthcare lobbyist consent. We need single payer, and we need it now. Americans have come to accept that it's okay for them to be locked up in a cage rather than not pay their taxes. Never mind, most money collected goes to the military-industrial complex and engage in imperialism abroad, wars against brown people who happen to live in oil-rich lands. So more people putting more documents forward. Antifa will pretend to be MAGA and NRA advocates at Virginia Second Amendment rally. So these are just some of the examples here. Here's another one. Check this out. Tomorrow's protest in Cleveland will likely be the same. The BLM is instructing people to be prepared to go to jail. And again, thanks to Phoenix Cat. I forgot to thank her there for sending me the original link. But here are some more alleged documents that are going around with BLM this time, which is all, again, the same New World Order. It's all the New World Order. General protest guidelines here. Always assume that you may be arrested when going to a protest. Make contingency plans in case you are in jail for a few days. Let a friend know that you're going and your employer, family number if applicable. Write your own one phone call number on your arm in a Sharpie. So that's what we saw before when we started off here, right? Unicorn Riot. So, you know, we were showing Unicorn Riot last night. I'd be very suspicious of a character with a name Unicorn Riot, but he had like 35,000 people watching him as he's doing the live on the street. But he is capturing this stuff where people are employing these tactics, which are clearly documented in the Soros-funded organization documents that are being leaked. So, yeah, write your one phone call number on your arm in a Sharpie. If you are arrested, do not say anything. Shut up and lawyer up. Do not film protesters. This literally puts lives in danger. However, make sure to record police misconduct. Do not wear contacts in case of tear gas and pepper spray. Try to cover your face as much as possible to prevent face ID, and as much clothing as possible without overheating in case of tear gas. Make sure you stay hydrated. It's summer and heat stroke is no joke. Use Signal to communicate. Texting with other apps can be intercepted by the police. So they're using signals. Do not antagonize the police. This is especially dangerous to black folks. Listen to black leadership. You are here as an ally, not for performance. Other things you can do other than being in the front lines. you should have one person per pod to keep in touch with those keeping track of police scanners. If you are able, please DM me. I will be in touch with those providing information. You must signal. I will be providing masks and sanitizers. Find me if you need any. Become a legal observer. These people are essential for documenting police misconduct. Provide accurate reports to lawyers if need be. National Lawyers Guild provides training. Even if you are not officially an LO, take objective notes and all this. Encourage lawyer friends to have. You have to join NLG, become acquainted with police scanners such as Broadcastify, so they're looking at all different ways to circumnavigate the authorities here. And you wonder who's behind this stuff. It's extremely dangerous what is going on, folks. These organizations are criminal Zionist New World Order organizations here that are trying to, create chaos and bring in their New World Order. It's just out of this world what's going on. And you need to know the people that are directly responsible for this and what their objectives are, which is a one world government, right? And slavery for all of humanity. These ANTIFA documents they're actually completely fascist. Like they claim to be anti-fascist, but they are absolute 100% fascism. There's absolutely no, resistance to any of their sort of political ideology. Everybody must be in lockstep. Everybody must do exactly. I mean, it's straight out of 1984. It is as evil as can be. And we need to get this information out the best that we can. So thanks so much to everybody for taking the time to listen into this. Tell me what you think about these documents. What do you think about Friends of Democracy? What do you think about Jonathan Soros and all the different organizations that he's involved in, right? And how do we best counteract this evilness that is obviously being unleashed on humanity? How do we stop them from destroying our cities or towns, from creating absolute chaos and, helping this martial law, contact tracing, everything they want to bring in, because they're using Antifa as a weapon to achieve their one world government. There's no question about it. This stuff is so evil. I mean, this is one of the most evil documents I've ever read. If it is indeed true, these things need to get out. Everybody needs to see them. And this is the antithesis. This is the opposite of what humanity should be striving for. Right? I'm all sympathetic to all minorities, and I would never be racist or anything like that towards people. And I'm sympathetic to people that have disabilities and even people that have sexual confusion and stuff like that. I have no problem with all of that. But this Bolshevism, this absolute fascist sort of, it's supposed to be anti-fascist, but completely fascist sort of dictatorship that they're calling for, and this pure racism towards white people, specifically cis white males, and their absolute garbage history that just makes everything that bad has ever happened is because of cis white males. I mean, that's just ludicrous. That is insanity. It's so utterly disingenuous. There are so many different peoples and ethnicities and religions that have committed absolute atrocities. Just go around in the 20th century and look what happened in Russia. Look at the Bolshevik Revolution. Look what happened in China with Mao. Or even later in the Soviet Union with Stalin. I mean, look what happened in Khmer Rouge. I mean, this is almost the playbook for Khmer Rouge here, right? This is the type of I mean, look, imagine if they were to get their way. Imagine if they had their type of society. They'd be beheading people every single day in public squares for having a contrary thought. It's so utterly evil, this stuff. And it should be obvious to anybody that looks at it. I mean, even if you're somebody that's black and you've been a victim of racism and you want to fight against racism, you've got to realize that this is as evil as it gets, that this is just, there's nothing here that is beneficial for you at all. And these types of organizations are criminal, and they are indeed, by all observations, to be terrorist organizations, like legitimate terrorist organizations that are engaged in instructing their own disciples how to conduct terrorism within our own cities. Again, I can't confirm 100% if this is for real. I have to leave that up to the viewer, but it wouldn't surprise me at all. And if you've got more information on this and more documents to share, or more information on Soros and co and the different groups, please do take the opportunity to post them in the comments below. I like so much to have a lot of feedback and tons of conversations and people, because this is the way that we fight this stuff, right? We all have to come together. Like, you know, we all have to come together. I got a ton of black listeners, and, you know, I'm so encouraged to have people all around the world, regardless of whatever ethnicity or religion or color you are. You know, you come to a place like this, and we're all the same. Like, we're all equal in terms, we're all humans. We're all going to treat each other with respect and dignity, and that's how I carry my life. If anything, I go around and I'm far more polite to people of color and different ethnicities and immigrants and stuff like that, because I have been so conditioned, like so many of us, into hating my own people, which I don't really hate my own people, but I hate the way that my own people, white people, are so mind controlled and have become so, toxic liberals, basically, who are basically helping this type of evil emerge. And then I look at, blacks and Asians and all these other people as just being much more, communal and much more supportive of their own people. And it's almost envy in ways when you look at that. And so it's so important for us to never allow this type of evilness to take over the minds of people, because you'll see people being beheaded in the streets if these monsters ever get their way. I mean, you'll see the worst. Now, more than likely, like, this whole thing is all about Soros and Core, the New World Order, creating a weapon, like a dagger that they can hit us with. Like, it's a weapon. That's what it is. So that's the way you look at it. It's not actually what is going to happen. It's more that they're going to use this to destabilize, just like they'll use their phony white supremacist groups and all kinds of other things to come and create chaos, right? That they want as much chaos as possible. And this is a document of chaos. Like, these documents are calling for chaos, calling for people to take up violence, take up action, take weapons to these protests and engage. I mean, clearly saying these things. So if you find these documents, very important to share them. It's very important to get this information out. And we have to do our best to stand up to this. We have to be the change we want to see. And we have to, educate people. This is the opposite of education. This is indoctrination. This is horrible sort of, right, fascist mind control that they're programming their people into. This is the opposite of having people with open minds and free thought and all the things that would make a better society. It's all about absolute control and tyranny. And it's so utterly evil, and it must be called out, and we must do our best to stand up to this. And it's so important that we get as many black folk and as many people of minorities as possible to understand how evil this stuff is and who is really responsible, who are the people that are directly responsible, and why they're doing this. So anyways, thanks so much. I'm supposed to take the day off, but I'm just overwhelmed by so much of what's going on. So I hope you appreciate it. All the videos and work that I'm doing. I'm working my tail off. And if you do like it, please do try to come and support me. My Patreon link's in the description. It really means the world, because it puts food on the table and helps me pay bills and stuff like that. So it gives me time to do this type of work, which I think is critical. So much love. Thank you so much for all the support. You guys are amazing. God bless you. I'll see you guys all in the next one. Take it easy, folks.